Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your Monday edition of the TraderMerlin Show. Kicking things off with a wild one out there. Some huge moves, especially up in the technology sector. Thanks to Mr. Elon Musk. That will be the topic for du jour today. Gems from out in Austin, Texas. I love old Austin, Texas. Kind of disappointed I sold my real estate down there, but cheers to everybody that's with us today. I usually give a big run through all the names and shout out to all of you, but I'm going to have to just keep moving to get through the show today. So let's start off with the broad topic. I don't want to have a clickbait thing and people keep saying, oh, Merlin, you're doing clickbait. Our topic is going to start with Elon Musk. You guys saw this graphic here of Elon Musk staring off at the Twitter birdie over there, and I put his social media about to change. Now, some of you may have been following Elon Musk. I have him as one of my number one that I follow on Twitter just because he has the tendency to move markets. And of course, you saw today that he bought about 9.2% of Twitter. This is coming off the heels of a poll that he did a couple weeks ago where he was basically saying, do you think that they really, have free speech in mind? And I'll bring the poll up for you guys so you can see it, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. There is the the poll from Elon Musk. He says, free speech is essential to a functioning democracy. Do you believe Twitter rigorously adheres to this principle? 29.6% of people said yes. 70.4% said no. I actually voted in the no category because I don't believe that Twitter actually adheres to free speech. I think they do a little bit too much censoring. Of course, sometimes I think censoring is actually needed depending on the maniacal people who are issuing bad tweets, etc. But we'll leave it at that. So that was the tweet that he posted, and it was, I don't know, I didn't really hear anybody saying anything about Elon Musk buying such a large stake in Twitter, but it's kind of interesting to see him do such a dramatic move. Now, let's look at the price chart of Twitter, because my gut tells me that though this announcement happened today, it was clearly in the works for quite some time. So I decided to pull up for you the actual SEC filing document. And I think this is where things get kind of interesting. So this is the actual physical document. It's a 13G form that Elon Musk filed with the SEC where he has to buy such a large percentage of this company. I'm just going to show you guys something right here. Does this should already make you feel like, okay, you're late to the party, right? For those who might be listening to the podcast, this is obviously April 4th, and that's when the announcement happened. Twitter is up, 29% on the day. But if you look here, March 14th, 2022. That's 3 weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, this document was filed with the SEC. And given the colossal amount of skepticism and cynicism I have towards the financial markets, I'll bet you dollars to donuts that this information has been leaked out, and this has been already priced in by a lot of big people. It's the retail investors who are left holding the bag on today's action. So let's scroll down a little bit further because I think it's interesting to see where exactly did this come from, right? Where did the money come from, or where did the shares come from? So I'm going to scroll down here. You can see he's got his 13D filing. I'll zoom out just a hair. You see he bought 73.486938 million shares of Twitter, and I'll scroll down here, and you see here, name of issuer, Twitter. So if I'm not mistaken, this is actually coming directly from Twitter. So it's not necessarily an open market transaction. It is coming from Twitter, if I understand this correctly. So that's how I perceive this, and what it means to me is that Twitter basically unloaded a big chunk of their shares. Now, the question is, when did this happen? When did this happen? Because if it happened today, it would make sense. It had this huge spike today. But this documentation, from what I understand, the way I'm reading this, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I could very well be wrong, people, so please, if there's something I'm missing, let me know. But it looks like this deal to buy 73 million shares from Twitter was put into motion on March 14th. And to me, that is when the effective purchase date is. They just had to do all the finalities to make sure it went through with the SEC, and now this is bought. So that's how I'm viewing this. When we look at the price chart of Twitter, you notice today its volume had 266 million shares traded, obviously a big bump. But what I want you to notice is, do you see any points here over the past few months where volume looked like it was starting to trend up, like there was an increased interest in volume and prices started to move? Notice right here, the date that document was filed was March 14th. That's where my cursor is. And at that day, you had an opening price for Twitter of $32.69. And then notice over the next couple of days, volume increased significantly. By the 18th of March, volume was already over double. It had 36 million shares traded on the 18th, and it only had 17 traded on the 14th. So it seems to me like this is where the insiders, whether that's somebody working at the SEC. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I making an accusation that somebody at the SEC may have leaked out information that Elon Musk was buying 9.2% of Twitter? Yeah, I'm making that assessment. Unfortunately, I don't know if they audit themselves over there at the SEC, but somehow that information leaked out. Now, this big move that we saw today is the retail public holding the bag. And I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive when I get a chance to see exactly how he acquired those shares. Because the volume spike today would make sense that there was an acquisition, a massive acquisition and a big open market purchase of those 73 million shares on the part of Tesla. Something I read was saying that his average price is right around $40, which means he bought it all right here, right? Could Elon buy an option from Twitter and then exercise it? Employees get options? Yes, they absolutely could. That's what Warren Buffett's done a lot, right? Buffett will get warrants. So when he built out the Bank of America back in 2008 or 9, he got all these options at a real cheap price and warrants for even more down the road. So yes, he could have. Yeah, right, Jim? No, I don't believe it. Good for Elon Musk. I'm definitely not one that wants to mislead the public, and I don't accuse Elon Musk of misleading the public in any way. He's doing what he has to do, right? He has to file these documents, and then he can officially own those shares. It's just procedures. However, think of the power that he has. Like Elon Musk can go out there tomorrow and buy, I don't know, let you guys type into chat. I'm curious, what do you think is the worst company on the planet? They're just like in the chat. It's got to be publicly traded, but what's the worst company out there? Like, man, this company is a steaming pile of dog do. What is it? I'm curious to see what you guys think. Influencers, which Elon Musk certainly is an influencer, so is anybody who has major clout in the financial space or just social media space. So somebody like a Warren Buffett, right? An Ackerman, a Donald Trump can say something and very quickly influence a market one direction or the other based off their comments, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. So let's see, the Daily Mail. So seeing here in the UK, Monsanto, that's just because they're evil, right, Thomasina? Because they're just poisoning the world. Wow, Jim, you say EA? Electronic Arts is garbage? Man, that's a drug addiction company there. They are addicting people to video games. Madden is a cult following. I got GE. All right, I could go for GE. PG&E? Yeah. Oh, Margaret. Right now, Hood. Okay. I'm going to use that one just because we've talked about Hood recently. So obviously it's had a pretty nice run up, but right now it's trading at $13.83, right? In the after hours, it's trading at $13.79. So I'm just going to say $13.80. Elon Musk could go out there right now and do a 13D was the name of that filing he could do the SEC. Was it 13D or 13G? 13G. And he could go out there and he could buy 20, 30, 40, 50% of this company from the guys that are running it right now. And I'm sure they've got coffers with a bunch of Hood shares that they could unload. And he can go out there and buy 10% of Hood. You know what's going to happen tomorrow with Hood if he does that. It's going to jump up 20, 30, maybe 40% based off that news. Simply because Elon Musk is putting his name behind something now. So that's the first piece of this is Twitter. There's your Twitter chart. I actually was out there looking today at potentially buying some puts on Twitter for July, August, maybe even September, but they were pretty expensive, so I backed away from it. To me, this is a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event. Now, with clout like Elon Musk brings to the table, it certainly could continue to push Twitter up. I guess the bigger question is, what happens from here? If you look at his comments about free speech being essential to a functioning democracy and questioning if Twitter actually, in fact, is being quote-unquote free speech, he made a comment something like he would be interested in designing his own social media company. Not like Donald Trump's, which was just a SPAC, which we all know it's DWAC. Here's Donald Trump's one, which still hasn't gotten off the ground and looks more and more like a pump and dump every day to me. That one was down about 10% on the day. But could Elon Musk do a SPAC and all of a sudden back himself into his own social media platform? I would definitely 100% put my money on Elon Musk over Donald Trump's SPAC any day of the week. That said, I guess his statement here about Twitter, or his purchase of 9.2% of Twitter, really has me wondering, what's he going to do? What sort of shakeup is going to happen inside of Twitter, and what changes need to be made for him and his followers to feel that they are functioning in the interest of free speech and democracy? So, I don't know. Just like Dogecoin singing, yeah. And it's funny because I saw a couple tweets about that. You know, you can tip people in cryptocurrencies on Twitter, right? You can tip in Ethereum, I think, and maybe even Bitcoin. I don't know. I never got tipped on Twitter. I don't know how you do it. But now they're saying that the tip thing will most certainly be in Dogecoin. And Elon Musk right away posted 100%. So you can expect a little pop in Dogecoin, which let's go and check out the ultimate shitcoin, which is Doge. And here is Dogecoin today. So a little bit of a pop, but gave a lot of it back. You can see that big increase in volume, probably well over double normal volume here for Dogecoin based off that. But again, this horrible cryptocurrency is inexplicably tied to Elon Musk. And unfortunately, if Elon Musk gets a hold of Twitter and starts to pull the reins, then most likely this will have a nice little run up as well. So something to keep an eye on here as we go forward. Does it get back to its 75-cent mark? I don't think so. Once a shitcoin, always a shitcoin. Elon should have spent his $3 billion between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, remember, he's already got with Tesla over $2 billion worth of Ethereum, right? The only reason that I bought to buy Doge is he pumps it. Correct, Jim. I agree. Doge and Shiba Inu, right? Doge and Shiba Inu. I mean, they're all cut from the same cloth. They're all just copies of the same garbage code. It's called free censorship. Well, you know, I'm just kind of curious what would happen. You know, I have to say I used to work with an individual. No, this is not Sam Seiden. This is somebody that is far worse than Sam Seiden. Oh my God, he runs circles around Sam as far as how bad he is. I used to work with an individual who actually was, I'll say, a salesperson, and he was one of the scummiest people on earth. And he all of a sudden became one of the head guys for QAnon. And he just went absolutely radical. And the stuff that he was spewing on social media was 100% hate. 100% go beat up these people, 100% violence. I'm just wondering, you know, at what point is free speech too much? Or do you have to filter out those people because of what they represent and what they bring to the table? Or do you let them have their voice and let the world deal with them? I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one. Hey, if I could cheat the system and come out smiling like roses. Well, and Joe, I mean, if you look at Elon Musk, is it cheating the system? Is what Elon Musk did today cheating the system? He actually followed all the rules. So he didn't say anything about him acquiring Twitter, or parts of Twitter. What he did is he got this paperwork going. And mind you, this documentation here, right here, this is why I love this stuff, is you can see right here at the top, March 14th, 2020 is when this document was filed. Well, if you look at the tweet that he posted, that was on the 25th of March. So 2 weeks after he got the ball rolling and probably had all of those pieces in line, he then went out and asked social media if Twitter was religiously adhering to the principles of a functioning democracy and free speech. And then, of course, today, which is another, 25th, let's call it a week and a half later, then we get this nice big pop here in the price of Twitter. So I'm very curious to see what happens with regards to Twitter and how it handles censorship. Right now, censorship is the key here around all these platforms, and I think that's why Donald Trump's did rather well with DWAC. Is it was saying, look, we're going to be free speech, say what you want. Les says free speech should not hurt others. Well, that's a huge question. Obviously, the individual that I'm speaking of wasn't actually intending to go out and physically harm somebody, but he was absolutely inciting people to harm others. In my mind, irrefutable evidence where he's just like, you need to go beat up these people. If you see them, punch them in the face, kick them. It's like, whoa, wow, you're kind of radical there, dude. So I say friend very loosely. He is no longer a friend. I wouldn't even call him an acquaintance. He's somebody I wish would just disappear forever. We are information, the ability to influence what information is being put out there makes everyone powerful. True. And this is why you hope that you get people with good morals, with good principles that can, help guide this process down the right path. I don't know. I'm kind of actually optimistic for what Elon Musk will do. I'd like to see what changes happen here. I'd like a little more clarity on what he thinks was missing, or what if there was too much censorship. You have certain people who've been blocked from Twitter. Maybe rightfully so. This is one of the arguments that we have for decentralized networks, right? There are some decentralized social media platforms where you can't censor people. It is what it is. Wasn't Twitter's policy based on the company's interest? I believe so. I believe so. I don't know the whole story on the what they were blocking, etc., but could very well have been in Twitter's interest, right? And this is the challenge with Facebook, the challenge with Instagram, with obviously Twitter, is if the people who are running that have an agenda, and let's say it's, I don't know, you could say a Republican agenda or a Democrat agenda, you can already start to censor the information, filter it out so that it makes your side look better regardless of which side you're on. And I think that's the big challenging people. Inciting people insurrection still? Well, this was. I would say that what this guy was doing from QAnon was way worse than just inciting an insurrection. I mean, this was like flat out go out there and hate crime people, which obviously I am absolutely against. But how much is too much Bitcoin? Good point, Big Ab. I'm still accumulating. Bought some more today. I'm going to keep on buying Bitcoin. Another $1,000 worth today. So that's the big piece. I don't know. I don't know how to ask the question of what's going to change. I think now we just kind of wait and see. For me, it's a question. At least the one question I can address that I have the ability to address is what do we do with price here? It's one of those pieces where I've seen this happen a lot in the past, where somebody does an acquisition of a company, and normally it pops, and then it will give back some of those gains over the course of the next few days. Well, from the math that I ran, which was the number of shares and the price that he paid, it was, I believe, $40.08 was his average price. So it's something right around that green line on your screen. So right now, in one day, Elon Musk has already made $10 per share on 700 million. So he basically made, 73 million. So he basically made $730 million today in profit on that trade if he in fact bought at $40.08. Must be nice to make more than you and I collectively will make in our entire lifetimes off of one tweet and one acquisition. Twitter didn't stop the riot groups like the fascists called Antifa and the trained Marxists. They don't censor Putin or but they censor some stuff, right? Obviously, some people are being blocked and others aren't. So it's either let it all go or hit everybody the same. And that's the argument I think Elon Musk was making. So I think it's going to be very exciting. There's a lot of other companies that are going to be, I think, impacted by this. You look at what happened at Facebook today. You had a nice rise, about 4% in Facebook on this news. And I think that you look at social media platforms and censorship, Facebook should be, in my opinion, an even bigger target here, although the market capitalization of Facebook is much bigger. Therefore, Elon Musk would have had to spend a lot more. But yeah, I think you've got Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all these companies going to feel more pressure this way. But maybe the move today just further, I guess, push the discussion along as far as what is needed, what are these social media platforms doing, what should they be doing, and how should they be accountable for some of their actions. So very interesting going forward here. Now, of course, if we run through these markets real quick and look at what happened, let's run through the top, go from bottom to top. Our worst performer out there today was Bitcoin. Still holding that 45,000 mark, right? I actually expected it to pull back to that 45,000 mark and then bounce off it. So we have still adhered to that. We'll just make sure we keep our closes above 45,000. I think you'll slowly see Bitcoin continue to move to the upside. Now, Dow did an about face. It was negative for part of the session, then crossed over in positive territory, ending up 0.28%, but still technically nothing here that's great. Russell 2000, same picture, right? You've got this, it broke out, and now is back within the upper part of that range, but still stuck below 21,000 or 2,100. Gold on the day, just sideways. I don't really see anything exciting here happening with gold. Right now it's at 1936, a gain of 0.69% on the day. S&P 500. Ooh, I'm going to leave these lines here for a while. Just remember, that's the target for if we get the 28% move that usually happens after we go inverted yield curve. So I'm going to leave that line there. I think I actually do have the the horizontal line. Yeah, there's the vertical line. This really, in September of 2023, is when that recession should start to hit from the inverted yield curve. Notice there's a lot of space in between now and September of 2023. So I'm just going to leave that one on there. As far as price move today, there's your little pop-up for the S&P, a gain of 0.81%. Not doing anything out of the ordinary. Was no breakout, was no real technical feat achieved today other than just having a nice little green day. I'm going to keep moving up here because this was the monster mover, NASDAQ. Now, we had this little supply zone mapped out. That supply zone starting at about 15,100, going all the way up to right around 15,260. Well, we hit that one back on the 29th and 30th of March, sold off, and now we ripped right back up to it. I'll tell you, the way that moved and how aggressive today's move was, watch for a break above this 15,275. If you get a close above that one, I think you're back up to 15.9 in no time and probably challenging 16,000 on the NASDAQ on the next leg up on this rip. Regardless of how negative that news out there might be, that's where it's headed. Just the trend is your friend right now. Unfortunately, that downtrend we saw for December, January, February, March, that's broke. That downtrend is definitely broken now, and if you break above these highs, that might get you that next leg up to an all-time high. Ooh, crazy. And then finally, crude oil. Still adhering to our trend line here. It closed below it on the previous session. Today, we rallied back up above it, so I would say that trend line is still intact. That trend line, which I started to draw from these lows back here. I guess I could, if you want to do it from the bodies, you can modify this trend line. I had it from the tails, but some people like to do it from the bodies. And if we do it from the bodies, you're looking at right about there. So all in all, still a nice little uptrend here for crude oil. 4.41% move up today in crude oil. And to me, unless we get above 115, I have a feeling you're just going to compress. And the compress, I mean this. You got those highs running through here. I know it's an abrupt, steep line. You can maybe slope it a little bit here. And from that perspective, to me, I think you'll just see price kind of compress in here for a little bit, and then ultimately it will rip out. Question is, which way is this damn thing going to go? Because I don't really know. All right. So what else do I have? Oh, yeah. So I had this question earlier, which I kind of addressed. Holy cow, Twitter went nuts today. What's your take? My take is, hey, if you got some Twitter, put a trailing stop on it and manage those profits. Let that thing run if it's still got some legs underneath it. Otherwise, lock in some profit on that nice big pop up. As far as the future for social media, I don't know. I'm not a big social media fan anyway. Really, the only reason I use social media is if I find something that I want to promote or something about this show, and usually for reminders about what's going to be on the show. So I'm not a big social media fan at all. I think it should be called anti-social media because it has really, I guess, prevented people from interacting like human beings and hiding behind a keyboard and a screen and talking trash to people, whereas just get out there and interact with people and be human. Okay. Let me go to a question. This is a double question from Les. And of course, if you guys want questions answered on the show, easy what to do. If you're live, just type in a couple question marks, send in your questions so I know it came to me. If you are watching the archives of this, just put them down below the YouTube video. I'll incorporate them into the show just like these two. Les says, just a quick comment. It's nice to know that Elon Musk bought about 9% stake in Twitter. Novices hearing about it jumped in and raised the price even more, very profitable for Musk. Yes, absolutely. And again, a lot of that is retail investors. I also understand that when a large purchase of stock occurs, it usually is at below market price. Is that correct? No, that's not correct. So it's not usually below market price. It's actually going to be above market price when there's a big acquisition. And you have to think why. If let's say I've got my company, and my company, whatever, Merlin.com, right? We'll just do TraderMerlin.com since I do have a website, which I never use. Let's say you go TraderMerlin.com. And let's say that you guys decided you wanted to pull some money together and you're going to buy a bunch of shares. Well, if you're going to come to me and be like, hey, I want to buy $5 million worth of your company, I'm not going to sell you those at a discount. I'm going to actually inflate them because I know that demand should push price up anyway. And then that's what happened with Twitter. If we look at the price chart of Twitter, now who knows exactly when that transaction happened or what, but his average price, from my math, was $40.08. And I guess if you're wondering how I came up with that one, let me bring it up here. So you can go, let me just go into a calculator so everybody knows. So it was, what was it, 9.2 or 9.2% of the company. I forgot how much money it actually was, dollar amount. So one of you guys probably knows the exact dollar amount, but you just take this purchase amount, which I don't believe is on here. Let's see if there's anything in here stating how much he bought. It just says 9.2. It doesn't give a price. Nope. But it's all public out there. I guess I can just go here and type in Elon Musk. Oops. Musk. Twitter. All right. So what was it? 9.2. I need to know the exact dollar amount because then you can find out exactly what his share price was. 75 million shares. It doesn't really say here, does it? NBC News? One of you guys knows. I know you guys know. I'm sorry. I'm just scrolling through trying to see if there's a billionaire. There was man, 203 billion. No, doesn't give us a price here on how much he spent. Anyway, I had it earlier. It was, I think, 3.2 billion or something like that. I divided it by the number of shares, and then that gave me the $40.08 mark. Was it 2.9? Okay, so let's just use that. I thought it was 3.2. I don't know. My numbers, I got all kinds of numbers in my head, but let's just do that one for Big Eb since you threw that number out there. If we go 2.939 and divide that, and you can see off to the side here, boom, 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 boom. That'd be divided by 73. All right? $40.26 is what his average share price would be, roughly, right? So, yeah, Bo says $3 billion, so we're pretty close, right? $3 billion, $2.9 billion, somewhere there. So you get an idea. It's roughly $40 per share, which, you know, I don't think that puts him at any lofty price. He was basically just right around market. Now, in order to do, boatload of money. Yeah, more than you and I would love to. I mean, we'd all love to have that just to have spending cash, right? So to answer Les's question, no, normally when you buy a bunch like that, you're going to pay a premium. You're going to pay a higher than market price for it. It's just like when someone tries to take over a company, usually they have to coerce the shareholders into letting go of those shares. So they want it, like when a buyout or a takeover, therefore they're going to offer it at a higher price than current share price, normally to entice the current shareholders to vote and agree to sell those shares. So generally, no, if you're buying a large amount in bulk like that, it's going to be at a higher price than market. All right. He gets the money from the government. Just no, he's got a lot of money in his own. He actually did this through his trust too. So this isn't through Tesla or anything. This is just through his personal trust, which I think is very interesting as well. All right, I had to bring this one up because I thought it was kind of funny. Tom said that, I think this is the end of Friday's show, or it might have been end of Thursday's show. I can't remember, but I tried to copy it out and put it into my notes. And you go, speaking of Mara, what's the best proxy for Bitcoin in the options space? Real question, not a big... well, I don't know if it's proxy for Mara. I mean, personally, if you're looking for something that's optionable, what about MicroStrategy? I don't know what the options are like on MSTR. I don't do trade options on it, but MicroStrategy, I mean, to me, that's your proxy for Bitcoin. Out of all the publicly traded companies, to me, that's the proxy for Bitcoin is MSTR. I don't know what the option chain looked like that at all, but I'm not exactly sure why you wouldn't want to just do Mara either, unless there's not enough liquidity on those options, or they're too thin. So no volume discount? Nope. No, actually volume premium. Remember, if I'm going to be selling you that many shares, I know that you're going to drive price up. Just think of open market. More demand, pricing can be higher. So no volume discount. Nope. It's not like I know where you're getting with this. Like when you go to a manufacturer, right? So I bought some pieces of plexiglass mirror, right? And I bought those all laser cut into hexagons. Don't ask me why. It's a long story. But I bought, it was like one sheet. And one sheet it was like $100. But if I bought 5 sheets, it was like $200. So I'm like, well, I'll get 3 extra sheets for free, essentially. So I in that case, you will, you want the log scale. You guys are going to get me all screwed up on my views now. In that case, you can get economies of scale and buy more product and get a cheaper price, right? So if you're buying a product, the more you buy, generally the cheaper price you're going to get. In this case, Elon Musk didn't buy a product. He's buying ownership of a company. That's very different economics there. So, good question, though. I think it's a premium compared to the March 14th. Yeah, and I'm not exactly sure what date that was. So let's go back to Twitter. And I'll put a vertical line on March 14th, just so we can see, the date that was filed. Because my assumption would be, and maybe I'm being naive, my assumption would be that if he actually did do this deal with Twitter saying, hey, I want to buy 9.2% of your company, that for him to actually get an SEC document filed, then that would have had, this discussion would have been going on for probably weeks before that, where Elon Musk was saying, yeah, let's do something. And then they actually took time to print it up, do all the legal work, and file that document on the 14th of March. Well, that's where that line is. And that, on the 14th of March, you had a closing price for Twitter of $33.08. So in that sense, he paid about a $7 premium per share, right? $7 premium per share. There you go. So, yeah, he did pay a premium at the time that he purchased it, for sure. There's no way you're going to buy 9.2% of anybody's company and they're going to go, oh, we'll give it to you at a discount. If they do, you got to think you're buying a garbage company, right? Because no self-respecting business owner is going to give away almost 10% of their company cheaper than what's currently going for, right? They're like, no. You're going to pay more. What else is? Please look at Square. Sure, Katut. Yeah. SQ. So here's your Square chart. I still like Square. It just feels like it's just floundering, right? Just kind of stuck in this little sideways range. It's been in for about 2 weeks. You got a high price roughly on this one, right around $149, which kind of coincides with this level back here, which was the last kind of rally, a little base, and then, a drop, a base, and then all of a sudden sold off again. So, I think that those levels we're currently at, really bouncing our head against. If you can get above this 149 mark on Square, I'm liking it. Who knows what the whole Square thing is doing with regards to Bitcoin. This is, again, Jack Dorsey. He moved away from Twitter and is focusing on Square, going to be much more block-centric. Sorry, it's not Square anymore. It's called Block Inc., where it used to be called Square. But I like it. I like the fact it's been traversing sideways. It hasn't made new lows. I wouldn't add any more to it until it actually did break up. There you go. For you, special deal, right, John? Can we take a look at Hood Short? All right, so I would err on the side of caution with this one, just because I don't like Robinhood. I think it's trash. I think it's one of those ones that new traders jump into because they hear the word free, and I don't think that they really do their clients a good service. But whatever, it is what it is. They're rich. I'm not. So if you look here at the Twitter price or Robinhood price chart, you've got this base where it really fell to right around $10 and has not been able to break that, which is a great thing if you're long on Hood. Now, the interesting for me is that it's managed to maintain that $10 low, and now all of a sudden, especially as of last week, it actually started to make a new high. So it might be turning a corner here. I know, I hate Robinhood, but it might be turning a corner. And if we can get above these most recent highs, which I'll put a horizontal line there for you, which is right about, call it 1650, then I think you're going to see this thing continue to move to the upside. A slow uptrend may be forming in Robinhood. So if you are shorting, be careful. The only reason I would say be very careful on that one is if you look at the most recent pop, right? So we had a big jump that started March 29th, so last week. My guess is you'll come back, retest that, and then start to move up. So if you are trading that one, just make sure you put a stop loss below this area right here where my cursor is, which is where you have this bullish harami. All right, this is a bullish harami pattern right here on the 25th and 28th of March, and then it ripped up, screamed up. So a retest would not surprise me, although what we saw happen on Friday's session with this nice little spinning top here, now we're breaking out of it. It feels to me like Robinhood's going to have another leg to the upside and challenge that 1650 mark. So be very careful. Be very careful with that one because I think it may have turned the corner. Even though I still think the company's junk, it still may have turned the corner. All right, so you're asking about the inverted yield curve. Yield curve is still inverted. Bo Trader says, is the yield curve still inverted? Doesn't the time it stays inverted impact a likelihood of recession? I'm sure that the longer it stays inverted, the more significant it becomes going forward. But, we're down there right now. I can take off logarithmic scale. We're definitely down below it. We're starting to come back up, but we've been below it for 2 days. Back in August of 2019, when we had the last one, it was like same thing. I'll zoom in. This is the 2019 one. We were down below it for 5 days. We were below that line, and right now we are at 2. So we'll wait and see how it all transpires. I mean, I guess because of COVID, because of what happened with that massive sell-off, you could make the argument that we did have a recession. Granted, was it because of the yield curve or because of COVID? All right. Boy, I got time. Michaels, it's time to ask about cannabis stocks. Yeah, we actually did that a little bit the other day. Yes, the Congress vote to legalize on a federal level. Let's go, MJ. You know it's coming, right? I think if you've got a long-term perspective on the legalization of cannabis, see if you can buy some leaps. Yeah, Christian. Yeah, the 2 and the 30, which is very rare. Unfortunately, I don't have... Let's see if I can bring that one up for us here in just a second, Christian. I'll see if I can bring up that second one. But let's look at some of the cannabis stocks. You have the makings of potentially a inverted head and shoulders, right? You guys can see we got this left shoulder here. Let me see if I can draw this line. I always mess up with this platform, but I'll try to do my best. I just forget how you lock the drawing tool. There we go. So I can go 1, 2, 3, boom. So now you guys can see the formation of this head and shoulders. Now we don't have the left side or the right side of the shoulder yet, but that looks like it's forming an inverted head and shoulders. And if it does, you could get a much bigger move to the upside. Bottom line is, it's all about this most recent leg, this one that started last week. If it continues to sell off and gets all the way back down to $8, then it's obviously not an inverted head and shoulders. If it's dips a little bit, maybe gets down to like 9.25, and then rallies back up and breaks this, then all of a sudden I think you're off to the races. But I do think at some point the stupidity, which is our collective government, will legalize on a federal level cannabis, just from the taxation aspects of it, the medicinal side. And I think the great thing about that is if they finally do legalize it on a federal level, then it also gets federal grants to study it, so we can actually really understand the medicinal impacts. Of course, you guys know that the lobbyists for all the major pharmaceutical companies are going to be fighting this tooth and nail, because that's how pharmaceuticals make money. Let's patent one simple drug that makes you addictive and doesn't really help you as much as just going to the natural plant, consuming that plant, which is going to be way cheaper, a lot less addictive, and you're going to do a lot better. That's cannabis, not some other ones that are obviously much more addictive. We'll talk about opioids. Everyone's growing poppies in their backyards, right? All right, what else do I got? Can you look at PM? Philip Morris? Well, certainly. Let's check out the old PM. From a price perspective, I don't see too much here other than the potential closing for this gap. Now, this is a question that came in, and I think it was from Jeff or Todd. I think it might have been Todd. Let me real quickly... Yeah, it was from Todd yesterday, or on Friday's show, posted something about the way I covered Harami formations, and he almost made it sound like I had it backwards. I don't think I did, but one of the things with Haramis, notice what's happening with Philip Morris right now. You got a little bit of an up move in Philip Morris. It's gone from $88 all the way up to, let's call it 97. And you got this big green candle on Friday's session. And today you have this small green candle. So I'm going to see if I can just... 1 second. Where's the poll button? Where's the poll? I don't know where all my buttons are. There's the poll. Okay, so let me ask this poll real quick. What is that? That's a bearish Harami. All right, so let's ask the community that one. So I put a poll out there just for fun, just to have a little giggles on the program, interactive, I guess. Would you consider that to be a bearish Harami? Because, a lot of people will say it has to be a green candle followed by a small little red one if it's a bearish one. If it's a bullish one, a lot of people will say it has to be a downtrend, a red candle followed by a small little green one. Well, I look at this picture right here, and I definitely have my opinions about what's going on with it, but you tell me. What do you guys think? Is that a bearish Harami formation on Philip Morris on the daily right now? And while I wait for the poll to go through, I will further analyze the chart. So I think for the gentleman who sent that one in about for Glenn, if we look at this horizontal point, right here is where the origin of that gap was, right? It gapped down to this point right around 97.41. We're still below that piece. I think that if you do get a close above that, then it's going to very quickly close this gap and bring it right back up to $100. So I do think there's a play. I think what's good about the most recent short-term memory here is we're making higher lows and higher highs. It's granted, it's a slow drift up, but higher lows, higher highs. So All in all, I think you're probably in a decent position. I would wait for a little bit on what's going to happen here with this, because here's our poll. And it should pop up in our chat here in just a second. So the poll was, is this a harami on Philip Morris? And I personally would say yes. I would say yes. And the only reason I would say yes is because you have today's trading activity fits completely within the previous band. Even though it's a small green candle, it doesn't necessarily have to be a red one. It's the principle of you had this big range on Friday, a wide range, and then today, short little compressed range that fit completely within the previous day's range in the real body. So to me, that's what gives it a bearish harami nod in my book, even though that candle is green, right? I know you'd love to see the second one here is red, then it would definitely be a bearish harami. But in most textbooks, they'll say the color is good, but it's not the determining factor. So this is a bearish harami formation on Philip Morris. As Katut says, an indecisive candle. Absolutely. Additionally, resolve a lot of employment drug screening conflicts. Not only that, but it'll get a bunch of people out of jail. I mean, I was, it may not be in the U.S. I know that I was in Dubai, and there was a famous drum and bass DJ who had like a gram of marijuana in his pocket. A gram, which you guys, that's like a small little piece. Like it's like you and maybe a buddy high. Well, they threw him in prison. I think he was supposed to get 3 years, and the government had to come in and actually get him out of jail with, I'm sure work some concession with the British government and Dubai. In the U.S., we've got a lot of people who are incarcerated for really stupid crimes. And, having a bag of weed, in my opinion, shouldn't be a prison offense, but for some people it is. There's much more violent crimes out there I think should be persecuted more. But anyway, won't even go there. Our fellow Americans... Correct, Todd. I think your fellow Americans should not be in jail for weed-related crimes, as long as it's not like, I brought over a cruise ship full of weed or an oil tanker full of weed. That's a little bit different, but, there should be limits. No big deal. It's funny, I was talking to a guy who worked for TSA in Bermuda and over my vacation, and it was interesting because he's like, in Bermuda, it's still illegal, but if you have less than 3 grams, which is, guys, it's not a lot. I mean, no one's going to go into a country or with 3 grams of cannabis and be like, hey, man, I'm a drug dealer. You're not going to make any money with that. That's personal consumption. So he says even at the border, if you come in and you're like, hey, they catch you with a little like 3 grams, they're just going to wave you through. Like, no, but you're not worth our time. It's not going to. Hopefully we get to that point here. Anyway. Let's see. I thought I'd address this one just before we wrap up here because I do want to get through this, and I thought it was an interesting question. So Todd says, Merlin, it seems like you have been mainly an educator for most of your professional career. I've watched most of the shows and listened to you describe your history. Was your intro to the markets, specifically in stocks, futures, etc., has your day job been primarily education? So I hate that way. That's not to hate, but the way it's worded makes me make it sound like I don't do anything other than just teach. Because there's an old adage out there that really bothers me huge in this market. What is it? Those that can't teach and those that can't teach write a book, right? I think there's some phrase like that. That one drives me nuts. However, there is some air of truth to that because I look at some of the university professors I have that are giving me courses in business management and financial markets, and they have no experience whatsoever in financial markets. So I would say, yeah, most of my career, at least from a pay perspective, at least from a payroll salary perspective, has been education. So I built most of the content initially early on for Online Trading Academy. I've also built courses for universities where I went and taught at university in Italy. I also go teach for banks, or I taught for banks and brokerages throughout Europe. Now I'm building content for Online Trading Academy because I guess in the years of taking courses and just learning myself, I understand that there's a educational flow, right? You have to understand that there's a process that helps people learn, and some educators make it way more complicated. So I have a skill set, I like to think, in educational design. So I've been sought after for the educational design aspect of it, and yes, I do a lot. Now, Is it all that I do? No, I do a lot of other things. It's just I really enjoy the teaching side of it, especially when you watch the light bulbs go off and people go, oh, I get it, or you empower them. Like Lori made some really nice statements last week about how, her journey with Online Trading Academy has been extremely rewarding, and now, it's one of those pieces that she's now consistently making money. That's awesome. I mean, that's what you want to hear. Now, granted, not all of them, not everyone's going to succeed. So let me just real quickly, you asked, was my intro to the market specifically in stocks? Yes. So it all started for me back in 1996. I actually guess at 9 years old, I found a book in my dad's closet. He lived in a trailer at the time while he was building a house, and it was the S&P stock guide. So he explained how markets worked, but I just, for fun, would like paper buy things. So I bought this for this, and I made a lot of money, but it was just time. When I went to 1996, that's when I said, I'm opening my own accounts, and I started doing long-term investing, which I struggled with because I was applying all these things I was learning from my university professors who were losers. I mean, these guys knew nothing about trading financial markets. They knew macro fundamentals, but that didn't help me trade. So in 1998, I did go take an Online Trading Academy class. It was a 1-month class back then, and I went from long-term investing, which I did okay, not great results, but it wasn't losing, to high-speed day trading, which at the beginning I was losing money almost every single day. Almost every single day felt like I was losing money at the early onset of it because I was just not following the rules. And then you start to get some mentors, you go self-reflective and find out what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and try to fix that if you're smart. Luckily, I had someone push me to that path. Then you figure out what's not working for you, you remove those pieces or fix it, and then you start to get better in financial markets. I went from stocks into futures, into Forex, into options, and then into cryptocurrency. So it's just been the kind of this domino effect of assets. I would say the one that I'm least versed in is options, at least with all the strategies. I don't do iron condors or butterflies or all these crazy ones, which I know a lot of you guys do, which is awesome, right? I just haven't gone that deep down those rabbit holes because I've got so many other weapons to choose from with stocks, options, futures, Forex, cryptocurrency. There's tons of different asset classes. So that's what I do. I spend a lot of time trading, but I do love the education side, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. So there you go. Wanted to just clarify that one. Business is the one field I wish universities would hire more people with actual experience. Frustrates me to one. I agree with you 100%, Thomasina. The problem is this. Generally, if somebody's very good at doing something, they're going to go out and do it on their own and make more money. Universities don't pay that well. I didn't get paid very much money at all to be teaching over at university in Italy. But it wasn't about the money for me. It was the experience. And I think that's, in many cases, that makes you richer than money, is having really solid experiences. Because the bottom line is, our entire life, I've mentioned this before, our entire life fits in between two numbers on our tombstone. You've got the day you were born, the day you die, and however long that dash is. And I hope that whenever I do get a tombstone, that the dash is a really long one, just to say, he did a lot of things, a lot of experiences. Let's see. And those that can't teach traders. Teach teachers. All right, let me go. I didn't bring up this last piece here because I just didn't have time to put it together because I've been working today. And here is our economic calendar for tomorrow. There really isn't anything on the earnings front that's exciting. So I'm going to show you the earnings calendar here. You can see that it's a lot of services and manufacturing PMI numbers, mainly services PMI numbers for the European Union. You also have some for the British pound. You have some for the U.S. So a pretty big services purchasing managers index, that's PMI, for tomorrow. None of those, to me, in my opinion, are really, groundbreaking announcements. None of this stuff is like, oh gosh, be careful. However, they can move the markets if they're way out of line. So that's pretty much all we have to work out for tomorrow. I saw, what'd you say there, Tom? I know some teaching spots do pay well, but I have I have to say, I did love teaching university. Most of you guys, actually everybody here is great, but I've actually had students in classes when I, taught physical classes for OTA, and some people are just incredibly rude, incredibly ungrateful, and they're just like, just show me the button that tells me what to buy. I don't want to listen to all this crap. I don't want to learn, just show me how to get rich. Like, well, you're in the wrong spot. That's not going to happen. Please bring back David Warner. Yes, I'll have to do David Warner, and we'll wear our shirts. Warner, I'm writing him down. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to have Bill Addis on tomorrow, which is going to be interesting given the inverted yield curve. So, yes, we'll see if we can bring him on. Thank you, Simon. I I guess when I was being taught by my university professors, I kept thinking, I'm not really learning much from you. And I learned how I learned. I know that sounds weird, but each of us has a different way of learning. I know some of you might be more, let me read the books, let me have all the documentation. I'm a show me how to do it kind of person, right? So if you just show me a couple steps, I got it. And I think that what's important is to have a hybrid of education that has very clear visuals to show the steps, but also have the documentation to explain those steps so that both sides of learning can grasp it regardless of who's teaching that subject. So I did one professor that helped me redo ARCO strategy to double their revenue. Using it. There you go, Tom. Did you get paid for that one? There's a button that does that successfully. Yeah, right, Joe? Just hit the button. All right, I got to get out of here. Time to run. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed that one. I like today's show. I think it's a very interesting time, especially when you look at what's going on out there with Elon Musk, and I do think social media is about to change. I'd really like to see different structures. I'd like to see different choices out there. I mean, Twitter's probably the one I use the most, but see if Facebook gets reinvented or what new technologies are developed to help make these platforms even better. Curious to see what the future holds. Bottom line is, Twitter probably going to do pretty well for the next couple months just because Elon Musk is on board, and it seems like that whatever that guy touches turns to gold. I know that some of his projects struggled in the past, but I'm hard-pressed to bet against Elon Musk. All right. Thank you guys so much. Again, if you have comments, put them down below, or questions, anything you want to talk about on the show, put them down below the YouTube video, as many of you have been doing. I appreciate that. That makes it a lot of fun, and I think it actually boosts some search ratings. So interaction on the video is always great. So thank you for those that are doing that. If there's something else you want to address, let me know. Email me, TraderMerlin@gmail.com. Until then, happy trading, everybody. I think we're going to have Bill Addis on the program tomorrow. We'll see you then.